Up the Mississippi from New Orleans to the Twin Cities. Down the Missouri from Sioux City. Up the Ohio to Pittsburgh. Down the Tennessee from Knoxville. Along the Gulf from Brownsville to Fort Myers. Up the Warrior Tom Bigby to Birmingham. And down the Illinois from Chicago. The inland waterways serve directly most of the markets of Middle America. And to the remaining markets removed from the rivers, the railroads and highways carry the produce of our nation to every factory, store, and home in every part of the land. Coal from the heart of southern Illinois. Up the Mississippi to St. Paul to furnish energy for the generators of a power plant, to create light in a home in Stillwater, Minnesota. Wheat from Colorado by truck to Kansas City, down the Missouri and Mississippi by barge to Memphis, by rail to Atlanta, to make bread for a family in Lawrenceville, Georgia. Sugar from the Caribbean to New Orleans by cargo ship, up the Mississippi and Illinois by barge to Chicago, to sweeten the breakfast coffee of a husband in Kalamazoo. From the mine to the factory, from the oil well to the refinery, from the field to the market, and from the manufacturer to the distributor, to the dealer, and to the consumer, the wealth of our nation moves continuously and efficiently across the seas, over the rails, highways and air lanes, and on the rivers. Never before in history has the man who wants to move something from one place to another had so many different modes of transportation awaiting his orders. From small packages delivered across the street by messenger to across the continent by air. From truckloads of material to railroad carloads to massive barge loads moving over the inland waterways. Today's commercial shipper realizes that the economics of modern transportation is an exact science. It constantly requires him to determine not only which mode of transportation is best suited for a particular shipment of his product, but which combination of carriers will give him the greatest efficiency at the least cost.
In 1958, the barge lines moved over 200 million tons of freight on the waterways of the Mississippi Valley and along the Gulf Coast. You know what that amounts to? About 150 pounds for every man, woman, and child in the whole world. When you move that kind of weight, and we move it over some 7,000 miles of waterways, the old idea of banjos in the moonlight strumming on the levee sort of goes by the board. Now it's 8,500 horsepower on one towboat pushing 6 acres of barges at a time on a 9-foot channel. It's radar, fathometers, automatic pilots, and radio telephones. It's barges designed to carry chlorine under 250 pounds per square inch pressure. And it's barges that carry molten sulfur at 350 degrees hot. But all this modern technical gear designed to give low cost and reliable service wouldn't mean a thing if it weren't for people with know-how. The people who make the barge lines. These are the people who work nights, who work when it rains or snows so hard you can't see 6 feet, and who work when the deck plates are so hot you can feel it through your boots. These are the people who, for better or for worse, got married to the river, and to lots of them, I guess it's till death do us part. It's not just a job, it's a way of life. This is Federal Barge Lines.
The headquarters here in St. Louis is the nerve center of the whole operation, right next to the river, of course. Upstairs, the dispatch office, telephones, teletypes, paperwork, and a big board with a lot of tags on it. That's about all it is. That and a system that took years to perfect. Ask me and I can tell you where every one of our 236 barges and 17 towboats is at any given moment. And I can tell you where anybody else's barges are that come under our control. I can tell you what every barge is carrying, where it came from, what it weighs, and where it's going. Right here in this room in St. Louis, we control and direct all the cargo movements which Federal Barge operates from one end of the system to the other. Connecting all these markets run the rivers where Federal Barge has direct routes and where we have connecting water routes with joint rates. 7,000 miles through the heart of America. That's where we go, carrying 3.5 million tons of freight a year.
St. Louis to the United States,
WK-214, the United States back to St. Louis. Are you reading me, over?
Okay, go ahead.
6 p.m. position, mile 834, 834. North corner, lower, and that is all.
834 North 4 and no traffic for you. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you and good evening. WK-214, United States clear.
Nowadays, for every month you work, you get a month off with pay. That's a good thing, because when you're off, you can really take it easy. But when you work long and hard. 6 hours on and 6 hours off and no Sundays. That's our life. Pilots, mates, engineers, deckhands, or cooks. Night, day, cold, hot, snow, sleet, fog, rain, it's all the same. Some of us have been at it for over a quarter of a century. Catfish Towhead, Shoe-Fly Bar, Solitude Point, Hard Scrabble Bend, Terrapin Neck Cutoff, you name it. There's not a tree stump, sandbank, or current we don't know like the palm of our hand. 4 miles an hour upstream, 9 miles an hour down, 4,000 miles a month, 12 months a year, pushing 30,000 tons at a time. A towboat's always on the move, and when you're on it, that's your world. It's where you eat, where you play, where you sleep, and where you work. Now, the pilot house has every modern device to keep a tow moving in any weather, in any place on the river. Searchlights that can cut through 3 miles of night to pick up a buoy or bridge pier. Radar to tell you what's ahead and what's around you. A depth indicator that tells you in the pilot house where the river bottom is, 1,500 feet away up at the head of the tow. And when you're moving something longer than the Queen Elizabeth, the largest liner afloat, through a narrow, crooked channel in the fog, a swing indicator can help you. And when a straight stretch comes along, you turn on the automatic pilot. It locks into the gyro compass, and no matter what the current or wind tries to do, the tow moves in a line straight as an arrow. For power, fingertip control of 8,500 horsepower, the equivalent of 6 diesel locomotives. For steering, more fingertip pressure. A simple movement of the steering levers controls huge hydraulic rams which turn the 10 rudders. Even though towboats carry enough fuel to run for 20 days, we don't waste time by stopping to refuel or pick up stores. We grab it on the run from store boats and fuel barges that tie up and move right along with the tow, upstream or downstream. It seems like towboats never stop except for overhaul.
You come all the way down here to New Orleans from Cairo, and you don't even get a chance to look at the scenery, let alone get ashore for a quick beer. As soon as you unhitch, you hightail it to another tow across the river. Hitch up and you're off again, back to Cairo, or maybe Peoria, or Minneapolis. All the time you spend in New Orleans you can figure is less than an hour. That's towboating for you. Coal and cement, sulfur and molasses, flour, steel, oil, gasoline, and all sorts of chemicals. Things like plate glass, motor cars, machinery, soap, and even bottles of beer. Seems like most everything you can think of is hauled in barges. Our main job is to keep the tows all in one piece. Get through the locks, make up tows, and drop tows.
Just how to make up a tow is a science, and that's the port captain's job in the dispatch office in St. Louis. Every tow, no matter where it originates, is planned right here. Once it's complete, the harbor towboat is given the plan by radio telephone, and he makes up the tow according to the plan. Essentially, a barge is a big steel box capable of holding some 1,400 tons of material. What this means is one normal-sized tow on the river holds approximately the same amount of cargo as 7 freight trains.
Down here at St. Louis Shipbuilding and Steel Company, we designed and built over 1,800 hulls of all kinds in the last 27 years. This production has included every type of river vessel, such as dredges, bridge caissons, dry docks, pile drivers, derricks, dump scows, and ferry boats and special purpose barges for automobiles, chemicals, cement, and acid. But modern towboat design is where technology really comes into play. St. Louis Ship designs and builds twice as many towboats as any other shipyard, and in the past 27 years, we have built over 165 outstanding river towboats ranging from 100 to 9,000 horsepower. Towboats are built to operate in water only 9 feet deep, some in even shallower water. At the same time, they have to tow thousands of tons through the water at around 6 to 12 miles an hour. Efficient design, along with increased power, makes possible low-cost water transportation. Most new towboats have from 2 to 4 propellers larger in diameter than the design draft of the boat. There's a rudder in back of each propeller for steering when coming ahead, and there are rudders in front of each propeller for use when backing up. Surrounding each propeller is a specially designed tube called a court nozzle, which increases the thrust of the propeller. They project up into a tunnel which extends above the water line, so that when the towboat is running, the tunnel fills with water and the propeller is therefore completely submerged. On this newest towboat, each one of these 4 diesel engines puts out over 2,000 horsepower for a total of 8,500 horsepower to provide dependable operation day in and day out. When we designed and built the biggest towboat in history, the most powerful ever made in the world, there was only one name we could give her.
I name the United States.
I am Herman Pott, chairman of St. Louis Ship and its subsidiary, Federal Barge Lines. The towboat United States pretty well symbolizes the part that both these organizations have played in the renewal of river traffic as a major factor in American transportation since World War I. It was in 1918 that the U.S. government created the barge line as an instrument of national policy to pioneer a new start of transportation on the rivers. At that time, it would be fair to say the river business was dead. The success of the pioneering work, in which Federal played so big a part, can be measured by the fact that there are today more than 960 companies and individuals in the towing business on the Mississippi River system and the Gulf Intercoastal Waterway. Another measure of the growth of the river business in the service of American shippers is a steady increase in tonnages from almost zero 40 years ago. By 1935, river traffic had hit an annual level of more than 8.5 billion ton miles. By 1957, this had increased to 60.7 billion ton miles. River business is now an essential part of the whole business picture. The people of Federal Barge, now a successful private enterprise, have for years had a lot to do with bringing this about. And so have the people of St. Louis Ship, which for 25 years has been the leader in developing more efficient and more economical equipment for the towing on the river. But more important, than the towing business itself is the way that all types of American industry have recognized that river transportation, a new and important means to move their raw materials and products at a lower cost. Rivers have taken their place in the transportation network, and along their banks we find in growing numbers electric generating plants, chemical plants, steel companies, grain elevators, and sugar refineries. Every kind of business that needs to receive and ship heavy commodities at the lowest possible cost in order to get its final products to the people who use them at the most economical price.